"Arrest him," my sister Vanessa said, pointing at my son like he'd just committed murder. Her voice was dead calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a tornado rips through your life. The officer standing on our parents' front porch shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. He's just a kid. Maybe we should." "He stole my Cartier bracelet," Vanessa cut him off, her words sharp as broken glass. "It's worth $18,000. Check his backpack if you don't believe me." I stood there on the edge of the porch, my grocery bags hanging from my fingers like I'd forgotten what hands were for. My son, Caleb, my sweet, 11-year-old boy who still slept with his stuffed penguin, was crying so hard he could barely breathe. "Mom," he kept whispering, his voice breaking. "Mom, I didn't take anything. I swear I didn't." The officers looked at each other. One was older, grey at the temples, tired eyes. The younger one, probably fresh out of the academy, stepped forward and reached for Caleb's backpack. My stomach dropped like I'd swallowed stones. The zipper made this awful sound as he pulled it open. And there it was. A diamond bracelet, catching the afternoon light, sitting right on top of his math homework like it belonged there. "No," I gasped. "That wasn't there this morning. I packed his lunch myself. That wasn't." Vanessa folded her arms across her chest, and I saw it. That smile. That tiny, satisfied curve at the corner of her mouth that I'd seen 1,000 times growing up whenever she got away with something. "Guess you should have kept a closer eye on him," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "But then again, you always were the careless one in the family." Behind her, through the screen door, I could see my parents. My mother with her hand over her mouth. My father with his arms crossed, shaking his head slowly. Neither of them said a word. Not one single word to defend their grandson. The older officer pulled out handcuffs. "Wait," I said, my voice cracking. "Please." He's 11 years old. "You can't." But they could. And they did. The metal clicked around Caleb's thin wrists, and something inside my chest cracked clean in half. He turned to look at me, tears streaming down his face, his whole body shaking. "Mommy," he sobbed. "Mommy, I didn't do it. Please tell them I didn't do it." I dropped the grocery bags. Apples rolled across the porch. "I know, baby," I whispered, trying to get to him, but the younger officer held up his hand. "I know you didn't. I know." They led him down the steps. My son. My baby. In handcuffs. As the patrol car pulled away from the curb, I watched Caleb's face pressed against the window, still crying, still looking at me like I was supposed to save him and I'd somehow failed. I turned to Vanessa. "Why?" I asked. Just that one word, because it was all I could manage. She tilted her head, touching her perfectly styled hair, checking her reflection in the window. "Because you've always acted like you're better than everyone else, coming here with your 'I'm such a good mom' routine. Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to be humiliated." That was the moment. The exact moment when something inside me died and something else, something cold and focused and absolutely unforgiving, was born in its place. My name is Amanda Pierce. I'm 33 years old. And that day, I stopped being the peacekeeper of the family. The second the police car disappeared around the corner, my parents turned to walk back into their house like they just witnessed a neighbor's lawn being mowed. "Mom!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "You just stood there. You watched them put handcuffs on your grandson." My mother turned, and the look on her face, that irritated, inconvenienced expression, made me want to scream. "Amanda, your sister wouldn't make something like this up. Maybe Caleb just made a mistake. You know how kids are when they want attention." "A mistake." The word came out like acid. "He's 11. They arrested him. Like a criminal." My father cleared his throat, already backing toward the door. "We'll figure this out quietly. No need to make a scene. These things happen." I laughed. Actually laughed. It came out sounding broken and wrong. "These things happen? Your grandson just got taken away in a police car because of a lie, and you're worried about making a scene." Vanessa stood there on the porch, still wearing that smug little smile she'd perfected over the years. The one that said she'd won and we both knew it. "Face it, Amanda," she said sweetly, examining her nails. "You've always been a mess. Barely making rent, working 2 jobs, can't even afford to send Caleb to a decent school. I mean, Is anyone really surprised he'd try to steal something valuable? He probably wanted to sell it. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. You planted that bracelet. Her eyes lit up. Actually sparkled with amusement. Prove it. Then she turned and walked back inside, humming some song from the radio like she hadn't just destroyed a child's life for sport. My mother grabbed my arm as I started to follow. Don't make this worse, Amanda. You know how Vanessa gets when she's upset. Just apologize and maybe she'll. I yanked my arm away. Apologize? For what? For having a son? For existing? But she'd already gone inside, closing the door behind her with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. I sat in my car outside the police station for hours that night. They wouldn't let me see Caleb. Said they had to process him first, whatever that meant. My baby was in there, probably terrified, definitely confused, and I couldn't do anything. I kept replaying it in my head. Vanessa's smile. My parents' silence. The sound of those handcuffs clicking shut. She thought she'd broken me. Thought she'd finally put me in my place after all these years of being the successful one, the one with the big house in Riverside Estates and the executive position at Hastings and Cooper Financial Group. But sitting there in that parking lot, staring at the fluorescent lights of the police station, I felt something shift. The tears stopped. My hands stopped shaking. And I started thinking clearly for the first time in hours. What Vanessa didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd spent the last 6 months working as a paralegal at Morrison & Associates. I'd learned a few things about the law. About evidence. About how to build a case that could stand up in court. And about how people who think they're untouchable always leave a trail. By the time the sun started coming up, painting the sky pink and orange over the station, I wasn't crying anymore. I was planning. They released Caleb into my custody around 6 in the morning. He looked so small, so exhausted, with red marks around his wrists where the cuffs had been. He didn't say anything when he saw me. Just walked into my arms and held on like he was drowning. I didn't take it, Mom, he whispered into my shoulder. I promise I didn't. I know, sweetheart, I said, stroking his hair. I know you didn't. And I'm going to make sure everyone else knows it too. We drove home in silence. When we got to our apartment, our small, 2-bedroom place above the coffee shop on Maple Street, Caleb went straight to his room without eating breakfast. I made coffee and sat at our tiny kitchen table, opening my laptop. Then I started digging. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next one. While Caleb stayed home from school, too ashamed to face his classmates who'd already seen the news, local boy arrested for theft at family gathering, I worked. Vanessa had always been careless when she drank. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every family barbecue, she'd had one too many glasses of wine and started bragging. About her bonuses. About her creative accounting methods. About how easy it was to skim money when you knew how to hide it in the right places. I'd always tuned it out before, wrote it off as typical Vanessa exaggeration. But now I listened to every memory with new ears. I started with her social media. Vanessa loved posting pictures. The vacation to Turks and Caicos last month, tagged as a business development retreat. The new Range Rover in her driveway, captioned "Hard work pays off." The designer clothes, the jewelry, the renovations to her house. All of it supposedly funded by her salary at Hastings and Cooper. I pulled up Glassdoor. Her position, senior financial analyst, paid between $80,000 and $90,000 a year. Good money, sure. But not buy a Range Rover and renovate a 4,000 square foot house and vacation in the Caribbean twice a year money. So where was it coming from? I remembered something she'd said at Easter dinner, drunk on mimosas, laughing with my mother. The Patterson Foundation is practically a gold mine. They give out grants to dozens of nonprofits, and nobody checks where the money actually goes. I mean, who's going to audit a charity? At the time, my mother had laughed. Oh, Vanessa. You're terrible. But she'd said it. I'd heard it. And now I had a starting point. The Patterson Foundation was one of Hastings and Cooper's biggest clients. They managed over $15 million in charitable grants annually. And Vanessa was their account manager. I spent the next 3 days creating a timeline. Every vacation she'd taken in the past 3 years. Every major purchase. Every time she'd posted about investing in her future. Then I cross-referenced it with public records. Property taxes. Vehicle registrations. business licenses, including the consulting company she'd registered under her husband's name 2 years ago. A consulting company that, according to the state website, hadn't filed a single tax return despite reporting income. By Thursday, I had a folder on my laptop labeled V_evidence, with 37 documents inside it. Bank statements I'd found in the trash during last Christmas when I'd helped clean up. Screenshots of deleted social media posts I'd saved without knowing why. Emails she'd forwarded me by mistake about invoice adjustments. But I needed more. I needed something concrete. Something that would make the police look twice. That's when I remembered Detective Morris. 5 years ago, there'd been an investigation into Hastings and Cooper. Something about embezzlement. It never went anywhere. The company settled quietly, paid some fines, nobody went to jail. But Detective Morris had been the lead investigator, and I remembered Vanessa complaining about him at a family dinner. "That detective keeps asking questions," she'd said, annoyed. "Like he thinks he's going to find something. Good luck proving anything." I found his number through the precinct's public directory. My hand shook as I dialed. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Detective Morris." "My name is Amanda Pierce," I said. "We've never met, but you investigated Hastings and Cooper Financial Group about 5 years ago." There was a pause. "I remember that case." "Why?" "Because my sister works there. And I think she's been doing exactly what you suspected someone was doing back then. Except now I have proof." Another pause, longer this time. "What kind of proof?" "The kind that shows she's been embezzling from the Patterson Foundation for at least 3 years. Maybe longer." I heard papers shuffling. "Ms. Pierce, are you aware that making false accusations is—" "I'm aware," I interrupted. "I'm also aware that my 11-year-old son was arrested 2 days ago because my sister planted a bracelet in his backpack to frame him. She used her connections in your department to humiliate my child. And now I'm using the truth to destroy her career." The line went quiet. Then, "Come to the station tomorrow morning. Bring everything you have." When I hung up, I looked at Caleb's closed bedroom door. I could hear him in there, talking quietly to his stuffed penguin like he used to when he was little and scared of thunderstorms. "It's going to be okay, baby," I whispered, even though he couldn't hear me. "Mommy's going to fix this." Detective Morris looked different than I'd imagined. Older, definitely tired, with deep lines around his eyes like he'd seen too much and believed too little. We met in a small conference room at the precinct, and when I laid the folder on the table between us, he just stared at it for a moment. "Before I open this," he said carefully, "I need to know your motive here. Are you doing this for justice, or revenge?" I met his eyes. "Does it matter?" "It does if I'm going to stake my reputation on this." I thought about Caleb's wrists, marked red from the handcuffs. About the way he'd flinched when I tried to hug him this morning. About how he'd asked me if he was going to jail, if they were going to take him away from me. "Both," I said finally. "It's both. She hurt my son to hurt me. But she also stole millions of dollars from people who trusted her. So yes, I want revenge. But I also want justice." Detective Morris nodded slowly and opened the folder. For the next 2 hours, we went through everything. The timeline of purchases and vacations. The shell company registered under her husband's name. The discrepancies between her salary and her lifestyle. The screenshots of her social media posts bragging about her financial strategies. But the smoking gun was an email chain I'd almost forgotten about. Last year, Vanessa had accidentally forwarded me an email thread meant for her husband. It was about an adjusted invoice for the Patterson Foundation, a grant that was supposed to go to a youth literacy program but had somehow been redirected to a consulting firm for administrative review. The consulting firm was her husband's company, the one that didn't file tax returns. "This," Detective Morris said, tapping the paper, "this is fraud. Clear, documented fraud. Can you prove it?" I asked. "With this? And if the Patterson Foundation cooperates?" He nodded. "Yeah, we can prove it." "How long?" "Investigations like this usually take months." "I don't have months," I said. "Every day my son goes to school, kids whisper about him. They call him a thief. Teachers look at him differently. He asked me yesterday if we should move to a different state so people would forget." Detective Morris leaned back in his chair, studying me. What exactly are you asking me to do, Ms. Pierce? I'm asking you to do your job. Fast. Something shifted in his expression. Maybe he had kids of his own. Maybe he'd seen too many cases where the powerful got away with it. Maybe he was just tired of watching people like my sister walk away clean. I'll make some calls, he said finally. But you need to stay completely quiet about this. No confronting your sister. No talking to your parents. Can you do that? I thought about Vanessa's smug smile. About my parents' silence. About all the years I'd kept quiet to keep the peace. I can be very quiet, I said. When I left the station, I saw it. Vanessa's silver Lexus, the one she'd bought last spring with what she'd called her performance bonus, parked across the street at the Starbucks. She was inside, laughing on her phone, holding one of those overpriced lattes she always posted pictures of. She looked so confident. So sure of herself. So certain she'd won. She didn't even glance up as I walked past her car. Didn't notice me at all. But she would. In less than 72 hours, everyone she'd ever lied to, everyone she'd ever stolen from, everyone she'd ever looked down on would see her for exactly what she was. I got in my car and drove home, where Caleb was doing homework at the kitchen table, his face still carrying that haunted look that made my chest ache. "How was your day, sweetie?" I asked, keeping my voice light. He shrugged without looking up. "Okay, I guess." "Just okay?" Brandon asked me if I was going to steal his lunch money. His voice was so small. He was joking, but... I knelt beside his chair and turned him to face me. "Caleb, look at me. You are not a thief. You are not a criminal. You are a good, kind, honest boy, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. Do you understand?" He nodded, but I could see he didn't really believe it. "I promise you," I said, "this is going to get better. Very soon." "Okay?" "Okay, Mom." That night, after Caleb was asleep, I sat at my laptop and drafted one final email. I'd spent 3 hours composing it, making sure every word was perfect. The subject line read, "The Truth About the Patterson Foundation." The body of the email contained links to every document, every screenshot, every piece of evidence I'd compiled. And it ended with one simple sentence: "Vanessa Pierce has been stealing from charitable organizations for years. It's time someone held her accountable." I had a list of recipients already prepared. Every board member of the Patterson Foundation. Every executive at Hastings and Cooper. Every reporter who'd covered the company in the past 5 years. And, just for good measure, every single person on Vanessa's social media friends list who worked in finance or journalism. My finger hovered over the send button. This was it. The point of no return. Once I sent this, there was no taking it back. No family dinners. No pretending everything was fine. No going back to being the quiet sister who kept the peace. I thought about Caleb, sleeping in his room with his penguin tucked under his arm. About the way he'd looked at me in those handcuffs. About the question he'd asked this morning, "Mom, am I a bad person?" I scheduled the email to send Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. For the first time in days, I slept soundly. Monday morning, 8 a.m. I was making pancakes when my phone started buzzing. Then it started ringing. Then it didn't stop. Caleb looked up from his orange juice. "Is your phone okay?" "It's fine, honey," I said, flipping a pancake with hands that weren't shaking at all. "Eat your breakfast." By 8:15, my email inbox had 63 new messages. By 8:30, it was over 100. I didn't open any of them. I already knew what they said. At 8:47, the first news alert popped up on my phone. Breaking: Executive at Hastings and Cooper Financial under investigation for embezzlement scheme. I set down the spatula and stared at the screen. There it was. Vanessa's professional headshot from the company website, looking polished and confident and completely unaware that her entire life was about to implode. Caleb noticed my expression. "Mom? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, baby," I said, and realized I meant it. "Actually, I think things are finally right." By noon, it had become a media feeding frenzy. Every local news station was covering it. The Patterson Foundation released a statement saying they were shocked and appalled and had immediately suspended all dealings with Ms. Pierce pending investigation. Hastings and Cooper's stock dropped 6% in morning trading. And my phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mother called first, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. What have you done? Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? Vanessa's career is ruined. The reporters are outside our house. Your father can't even go to the golf club. I waited until she stopped to breathe. Tell me something, Mom. Where were you when they put handcuffs on your grandson? That's different. Where were you? I repeated, my voice calm and cold. When Caleb was crying and scared and being treated like a criminal over a lie. Where were you then? Silence. That's what I thought, I said, and hung up. My father called 10 minutes later. His approach was different, disappointed instead of angry, which had always been his specialty. Amanda, I know you're upset about what happened with Caleb, but this is too far. Vanessa made a mistake, but she's still your sister. Family protects family. I laughed. Actually laughed. Family protects family? You watched your grandson get arrested and said nothing. That's not protection, Dad. That's betrayal. We thought. I don't care what you thought. You chose Vanessa over Caleb. Over me. You always have. So don't talk to me about family. I hung up on him too. At 2 p.m., Vanessa finally called. Her voice was shaking, but not with sadness or regret. With pure, volcanic rage. You think this makes you better than me, she hissed. You think humiliating your own family, destroying everything we've built, you think that makes you the good guy. I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. You did that yourself when you decided to steal millions of dollars and frame an 11-year-old child to cover your insecurities. It wasn't about the bracelet. It was supposed to scare him a little, teach him some respect. Respect. I cut her off. You had police officers put handcuffs on a child. My child. Your nephew. What exactly was he supposed to learn from that except that the people who are supposed to love him will destroy him for entertainment? You don't understand. No, Vanessa. You don't understand. You thought you were untouchable because Mom and Dad always protected you. Because you had money and status and connections. But here's what you never figured out. None of that matters when the evidence is clear and the law doesn't care who you're related to. I could hear her breathing hard on the other end. I hate you. I know, I said softly. But I don't hate you. I just don't care about you anymore. There's a difference. When I hung up, Caleb was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, his eyes wide. Was that Aunt Vanessa? Yeah, sweetie. Is she going to be okay? My heart broke a little at the question. Even after everything, he was worried about her. That's the kind of kid he was. I don't know, I said honestly. But that's not your responsibility. Adults make choices, and then they deal with the consequences. Aunt Vanessa made a lot of bad choices. He thought about that for a moment. Mom? Are you sad? I pulled him into a hug. No, baby. For the first time in a long time, I'm not sad at all. That evening, as the sun set and the news cycle continued to churn, Detective Morris called. Your sister confessed, he said without preamble. Everything. The embezzlement, the fake consulting firm, the shell companies. All of it. My heart started pounding. And the bracelet? Did she admit to planting it? She did. Said she wanted to teach you a lesson about acting superior. Her words, not mine. I closed my eyes. What happens now? The DA is filing formal charges. Wire fraud, embezzlement, filing false police reports, conspiracy. With her confession and your evidence, she's looking at serious prison time. How much? 5 to 7 years, probably. Maybe more depending on how much they uncover. 5 to 7 years. Vanessa would be 43 when she got out. Her career would be over. Her reputation destroyed. Everything she'd built, gone. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Ms. Pierce. Detective Morris said. Are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. I want you to know something. What you did, it took courage. A lot of people would have just let it go to keep the peace. I tried that for 11 years, I said. It didn't work out so well. After we hung up, I walked into Caleb's room. He was reading in bed, his penguin tucked under one arm. "Hey, buddy. I have some news." He put down his book, looking worried. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetie. The opposite. The police know you didn't take that bracelet. They know Aunt Vanessa lied. Everyone knows." His face crumpled, and suddenly he was crying, not scared crying like before, but relief crying. "Really? They really know I didn't do it. They really know. You're completely cleared. No charges, no record, nothing." He threw his arms around me, and we stayed like that for a long time. "Mom," he whispered. "Thank you. You don't have to thank me for protecting you, Cal. That's what mothers do." The trial moved faster than anyone expected. With Vanessa's confession and the mountain of evidence, her lawyers convinced her to take a plea deal. 5 years with possibility of parole after 3, reduced in exchange for testimony against her accomplices at Hastings and Cooper. Her husband, Greg, lost his teaching license for his role in the consulting company scheme. My parents became minor celebrities in the worst way. Every local news outlet ran stories about the family enablers who'd covered for their daughter's crimes while watching their grandson get arrested. The Riverside Country Club quietly asked my father to resign his membership. My mother stopped posting on Facebook entirely after someone created a meme of her at Vanessa's court hearing, stone-faced and silent. For the first time in my adult life, my phone wasn't ringing with demands from my family. The silence was strange at first. Then it became peaceful. 6 weeks after Vanessa's sentencing, Caleb and I went back to the police station. Not because we had to, but because Detective Morris had asked us to stop by. He met us in the lobby with a warm smile, the tired lines around his eyes looking a little softer than before. "Caleb," he said, kneeling down to the boy's level. "I wanted to tell you something. What happened to you wasn't okay. The officers who arrested you that day, they should have questioned the situation more carefully. We failed you, and I'm sorry for that." Caleb looked at his shoes, then back at Detective Morris. "It's okay. I know you were just doing your job." "That's very mature of you," Morris said. "But I also wanted you to know that because of what happened, we're changing our protocols. No more arresting minors without thoroughly investigating the claims first. We're calling it the Caleb Protocol." Caleb's eyes went wide. "Really? It's named after me." "Really? So in a way, you helped make sure this doesn't happen to other kids." As we walked back to the car, Caleb was practically floating. "Did you hear that, Mom? They named something after me. The Caleb Protocol." I smiled, ruffling his hair. "I heard. You're pretty special, you know that." "I know," he said with the confidence of an 11-year-old who'd survived something terrible and come out stronger. "Can we get ice cream?" "We can definitely get ice cream." Life slowly returned to something resembling normal. I got a promotion at the law firm. Turns out uncovering a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme looks good on a resume. We moved to a nicer apartment, one with 2 bathrooms and a balcony where Caleb could do his homework while watching the sunset. 3 months after the trial, I received a letter. The return address was the Women's Correctional Facility where Vanessa was serving her time. I almost threw it away. Almost. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short, written in Vanessa's distinctive looping handwriting. "Amanda, I've had a lot of time to think in here. About what I did. About why I did it. My therapist, yes, I have a therapist now, says I was jealous of you. That sounds crazy, I know. You were the one struggling while I had everything. But you had something I didn't. You had integrity. You were a good mother. People actually liked you, not because of your money or your connections, but because you were genuine. I hated that. I hated that you could be happy with so little while I needed so much to feel like I mattered. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I did to Caleb was unforgivable. I became the monster I always accused everyone else of being. I hope you're both doing well. I hope Caleb knows he's lucky to have you as his mother. Vanessa." I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would, but not today. Today I was still healing, still building the life we deserved. My parents tried to reach out a few times. My mother sent a birthday card for Caleb with a $100 bill inside and a note that said, "We miss you both." My father called once, leaving a voicemail that started with, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but..." I didn't respond to those either. Not out of spite, but because I'd learned something important. Forgiveness didn't mean letting people back in who would hurt you again. It meant releasing the anger so it didn't poison your own life. One Saturday morning, Caleb and I were making breakfast when he asked, "Do you think Aunt Vanessa is sorry?" I flipped a pancake, considering my answer carefully. "I think she's sorry she got caught. Whether she's actually sorry for what she did, that's something only she can figure out." "Do you forgive her?" "I don't know yet. Maybe someday. But forgiving her doesn't mean what she did was okay." He nodded thoughtfully, pouring syrup on his pancakes. "I think I forgive her. Not because she deserves it, but because I don't want to be angry anymore." Is that weird? I looked at my son, this brave, kind, remarkable kid who'd been through something no child should experience and had somehow come out of it with his heart still intact. "That's not weird at all, Cal. That's called being a better person than most adults I know." He grinned. "Does that mean I can have extra pancakes?" Nice try. No. A year passed. Then another. Life became something I'd never really experienced before, stable. Predictable in the best way. Caleb thrived. His grades improved. He made the middle school basketball team. The nightmares stopped. Sometimes I'd catch him laughing with his friends, completely carefree, and I'd feel this overwhelming gratitude that we'd made it through. I got my real estate license and started working at a boutique firm in downtown Portland. Turned out I was good at it, helping people find homes, negotiating deals, building something positive instead of tearing something down. My parents sent Christmas cards every year. I read them but didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Vanessa was released early on good behavior after serving 3 years. I heard through the grapevine that she was living in Seattle, working at a non-profit helping former inmates rebuild their lives. I didn't reach out, and she didn't contact me. We'd said everything that needed to be said. One spring afternoon, almost exactly 3 years after that terrible day on my parents' porch, Caleb came home from school with a permission slip. "There's a career day," he said, handing me the form. "They want parents to come talk about their jobs. Will you come?" "Of course I'll come." "And Mom?" He hesitated. "Could you maybe talk about what happened? You know, with Aunt Vanessa and everything." I blinked, surprised. "Why would you want me to talk about that?" "Because Brandon, remember him? The kid who made fun of me. He's been getting bullied this year. I thought maybe if you talked about how you helped me, it might help other kids know they can tell adults when bad things happen." My heart swelled. "You want me to help other kids?" "Yeah. I mean, if you're okay with it." On career day, I stood in front of 30 middle schoolers and told them a simplified version of our story. Not the details, but the lesson, that standing up for what's right is hard, that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you fail, but that you deserve to be defended anyway. "The most important thing I learned," I said, looking at Caleb sitting in the third row, "is that being quiet to keep the peace isn't really peace at all. Real peace comes from telling the truth, even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary." After the presentation, a girl with glasses raised her hand. "What happened to your sister?" "She went to prison," I said honestly. "Not because I wanted revenge, but because what she did was wrong and hurt a lot of people. Justice isn't about being mean or getting even. It's about making sure people are held accountable for their choices." "Do you still talk to her?" "No. And that's okay. Sometimes protecting yourself and your family means creating distance from people who hurt you. That's not mean. That's healthy." The kids asked more questions, tough ones about forgiveness and family and right and wrong. We talked for almost an hour, way longer than scheduled, until the teacher finally had to end it for the next class. As I packed up my things, the girl with glasses approached me, her eyes nervous. "Ms. Pierce? Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "My uncle, he's been mean to me. Not like hitting me or anything. But he says things that make me feel bad, and my parents always tell me he's just joking. But it doesn't feel like Joe." This response paused because Claude reached its max length for a message. "King." I knelt down so we were eye level. "Have you told your parents how it makes you feel?" She nodded. "They say I'm too sensitive." "Listen to me. Your feelings are valid. If someone makes you feel bad, that matters, even if they say they're joking. Keep telling adults until someone listens. And if they don't listen, you come find me. Okay? Her eyes filled with tears. Okay. Thank you. As I watched her walk back to her desk, Caleb appeared beside me. That was cool, Mom. Yeah? Yeah. You helped people. Just like you helped me. Driving home that afternoon, I thought about all the things that had happened. The arrest. The investigation. The trial. The aftermath. All the pain and anger and fear. But I also thought about where we were now. Safe. Stable. Stronger. That night, I found myself pulling out the old family photo from years ago. The one with Vanessa, my parents, and me, all smiling like we had it all figured out. I stared at it for a long time, studying the faces of people who'd become strangers. Then I put it back in the drawer and pulled out a new photo. One from last month of Caleb and me at the coast, windblown and laughing, standing on a rocky beach with the ocean behind us. This was my family now. Small but real. Imperfect but honest. I hung the new photo on the refrigerator and stepped back to look at it. Some battles destroy you. Others set you free. And when you finally stop protecting the people who hurt you, you discover what peace truly sounds like. It sounds like silence. Not the painful kind. The kind that means you're finally safe. It sounds like your child laughing without fear. It sounds like waking up and not dreading what the day will bring. It sounds like knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard. Caleb called from his room. Mom, can you help me with my math homework? Coming. I called back. As I walked down the hallway toward his room, I realized something. I'd spent so many years trying to keep the peace, trying to hold together a family that was built on lies and favoritism and conditional love. But real peace wasn't about keeping everyone happy. It was about protecting the people who deserved protecting. It was about truth, even when truth was ugly. It was about justice, even when justice came at a cost. And most of all, it was about knowing that when the world tried to break my son, I broke the world back. That was peace. And it felt like coming home.